This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. This game versus the Cardinals is a very important one for the Cleveland Browns and a very interesting one, to say the least, because if you go into this, there's a decent chance, I wouldn't say a great chance, there's a decent chance, a less than 50%, like 30% chance that Deshaun Watson plays in this game. I believe there's also like a 20% chance that Kyler Murray plays in this game. Like, this game can go from PJ Walker to versus Clayton Tune to Deshaun Watson versus Kyler Murray. Wild swing of expected level of quarterback play. You'd be going from a combined 5 Pro Bowls between both the starting quarterbacks to, like maybe 7 starts between both of these two dudes. So it is a wild game to prepare for. It's a wild game to do these bold predictions for, but I have done them nonetheless, even though we have no clue at this point who is starting at quarterback for either team. Again, we think it's going to be PJ Walker versus Clayton Tune. We're going to prepare for Clayton Tune versus PJ Walker, but I would not rule out the possibility that you get Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson in this game, if not both of them. It could happen. Kyler is healthy. They're just kind of holding him out now for strategic reasons, but if they feel like it's the time to give it a go, they'll give it a go. And Deshaun Watson probably could play on Sunday, given that they felt like he could play. Well, he felt like he could play, and he walked that back in today's press conference. But either way, Deshaun is probably at a point to where if you want to push him out there early, you could push him out there early. And Kyler is at a point to where if you wanted to push him out there early, you could push him out there early. Whether you should do those said things, that's a different debate. But it does mean that it's possible for both these players to play. So that's the first weird situation about this game, is that both teams have no clue which quarterback to prepare for, and those two quarterbacks couldn't be any different. But let's get into the bold predictions. And we're going to start here with the run game. I think this is going to be a run game heavy week. The Browns know that they only have a couple more weeks, if not just this game left of the PJ Walker experience. It's part of the reason why they weren't willing to trade a crazy amount of picks or crazy draft capital to get a backup quarterback. This is why they don't feel the need to get a vet back there. They feel like PJ can get them through this one game better than what they could have if they traded a 3rd round pick for like Jacoby Brissett, which is what the asking price was. They feel like they're at the end of this. They also feel like they've rolled this PJ Walker ride enough. Now, when you got to play PJ Walker versus good teams, you cannot get away with hiding him by running the football. Right? Like, good teams are going to force you out of that. The Seahawks forced them out of that. The Colts forced them out of that. The 49ers forced them out of that, right? Like, those are all 3 games where the run game was a little inconsistent, minus the Seahawks game where the run game was very consistent, right? But you didn't expect that coming in. So that was more of a discovery than it was a plan going into it. This week, you expect this run game to be able to carry you to victory. The other weeks, you thought that, hey, in the game plan, maybe PJ Walker was going to have to make some throws to win. This week, not the case. And I think you see a severely pared down pass game and a run-heavy attack. I think we're going to see a lot of runs, a lot of screens, a lot of the stuff that we saw in the first half, or the second quarter of last week's game. I expect between Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford, and Kareem Hunt, at least 30 carries between the 3 of them. And I think we'll get about 25 pass attempts out of PJ Walker at most. I think this is going to be a game where the Browns are going to play extra conservative. They're not going to take that many risks on offense. And the risks that they do take will be very controlled risk. It will be a lot of screens. It'll be a lot of dictated throwing lanes where it's like, hey, you throw the ball here. There's literally nowhere else to go with the football. Part of what gets PJ in trouble when it comes to him playing quarterback is that his eyes are bigger than his stomach. And what that means is that PJ sometimes tries to make plays that Pat Mahomes can make. But PJ's not Pat. That's the biggest understatement in the world, right? That's the thing with PJ. That's why PJ can go to the XFL and look like Patrick Mahomes, because in the XFL, he's much more, he's at that talent level to get away with some of the stuff that he wants to do. And that's why there are some games in PJ Walker's career where he looks incredible, because he has that appetite, the same appetite and the same eyes for those big plays as a Pat Mahomes. He just is not as physically capable as Pat Mahomes, right? And when you have one part to the recipe but not the other, you tend to make a lot of doo-doo stew. And that's what we've been getting sometimes from PJ. And I think that's where you get in trouble, right? When you give PJ a ton of options, when you tell PJ, hey, you know, you might be able to go backside and you might be able to do these things. He's going to try to get to them at the very last minute. And again, like, he just doesn't have that level of arm talent in the NFL, at least, to get away with it. And again, you have to protect yourself and protect PJ Walker from himself, especially in this game, because the only thing, in my opinion, that will keep the Arizona Cardinals in this game is if you allow PJ Walker to keep them in the game, right? If you allow PJ's eyes to get bigger than his stomach. You have to realize that. You have to realize that's been a problem for almost every quarterback in here. The DTR was my biggest line with him on my film breakdown of what went wrong for him. Eyes bigger than his stomach, right? He making throws he can't make in the NFL. Like, maybe you can make those throws at UCLA. You cannot make that throw in the NFL consistently. You should not throw that ball in the NFL. PJ Walker, same thing. Eyes bigger than his stomach. Tries to make plays that he's not equipped to make. They're fine enough decisions at times. It's just you are not talented enough to do this. And even with Deshaun Watson, you know, there are some plays where I'm like, look, conceptually, I understand what you were trying to get here, but you have to realize you are not 24 anymore. This is not a play you can make consistently anymore. You should stop doing it. And we have to have this reckoning as a quarterback room that our eyes are bigger than our stomachs are. We are overshooting what we have the appetite to eat on offense, especially in the passing game. You look at all of the turnovers, all of the interceptions, all of the fumbles from quarterback, it's because they're trying to hit something they ain't got no business trying to hit, but they think that they can get it. We got to have that reckoning. Not saying you got to be Kirk Cousins and check the ball down every play, but got to find a balance. Got to find what kind of throws can you actually make. Got to have a good read on that kind of thing. You know what makes Joe Burrow special? Joe Burrow has a great read for what throws he can and cannot make. Pat Mahomes is special because Pat Mahomes has no throw he can't make. Same thing with Josh Allen. Even though Josh Allen be making some bad throws at times, Pat Mahomes has no throw he cannot make. So he gets away with any play that he wants to make. And even when he doesn't, you're fine with it because 80% of the time he gets away with it. But Joe Burrow, who does not have that arm talent, has a great understanding of what he can and cannot get away with. That is an important trait for a quarterback to have. Right now, I don't see that happen enough in our quarterback room, and maybe for Deshaun, it'll come with more reps. But in general, quarterback room wide note, in my opinion, is they got to just get a better grasp on what plays they can actually make. Deshaun Watson comes in Indy, almost throws 2 interceptions. It's not a mistake. Why? Tried to make some throws that he can't make anymore. Or maybe he couldn't make with this injury. Gotta have a better grasp of what plays you can and cannot make. That goes for DTR if he has to play. That goes to PJ Walker if he has to play. And that goes to Deshaun Watson. All of them have to have a better grasp on it. And for this Cleveland Browns offense, when it's PJ Walker, right? Because with Deshaun, you're willing to live with some negative plays as long as you feel like he learns from that experience, because he is who you hope to be your franchise quarterback. But when it comes to PJ Walker, you got to protect yourself from it. You just can't put him in very many situations where his eyes can get bigger than his head. And I think a lot of people had criticism for the fact that PJ was staring down Amari Cooper. I think when PJ Walker's your quarterback, you just got to tell him to keep it simple. Like, I will live with him staring down Amari Cooper because he feels like he has one-on-one coverage and Coop can beat that. I will live with that when it's PJ Walker, because if you give PJ Walker the freedom to come off of his second read, he might make a throw he has no business making because the play is there. He can't make it. You got to keep it simple for PJ. This is not a week to circle every open wide receiver if PJ Walker plays. Or even if Deshaun plays, to be honest with you. I think it's the same plan. This is not a week to circle, oh, this guy was open. This guy, you could have went backside here. Nah, man, keep it simple. Keep it simple, especially for PJ Walker. Do not allow his eyes to get bigger than his stomach, because those usually turn into turnovers. David Njoku, interception. He's running right. Sees David Njoku flash open last second. Instead of getting rid of the ball like he knows he's supposed to, what does he do? He throws it backside to David Njoku across his body. The ball floats on him. It gets intercepted. It was there. He's not capable of making that throw consistently. So he shouldn't have thrown it. Doesn't matter if it was there or not. And then the same thing happened on that interception there, right? Like, he tried to make a throw he could not make consistently. It got batted down and went low, and then boom, went to interception. Got to protect yourself. Keep it simple. I don't care if he's a one-read quarterback if you make him do this, because PJ Walker's more than capable of getting to his second, third, like everybody is in the NFL for the most part. It's about, can you make the throw on your third read? If you can make the throw on your fourth progression, like, that's what's actually important. Every quarterback that plays in the NFL can get to that read. It's about, can you make that throw? And PJ has demonstrated that consistently he cannot make that throw. Now, he'll give you a game where he just hitting every throw in the book, but he cannot consistently do that. You have to protect him. Keep it simple. 1, 2, throw out of bounds. Maybe the 2, right? It might be 1 throw out of bounds, right? Like, I think with the pass game, you're just going to try to hit a couple big shots, get like 4 or 5 chunk plays, and then get the rest with your run game. I really think that that's going to be the plan here. So you're going to take about 5, 6 shots, quick shots. Hey, this, throw it. That down there, throw it out of bounds. That's it. That should be the plan conceptually when it comes to run pass flow. I think this is going to be a big David Njoku Coop heavy week for that same reason. Because if PJ Walker's not going to be asked to make a ton of reads, if you're not going to ask PJ Walker to get to his third or fourth progression because you don't trust his ability to make those throws when he gets back to his third or fourth progression that late in the pocket, you're going to have to get that ball to David Njoku and get that ball to Coop, which means you see Coop one-on-one, you throw it to him. If you see David Njoku has an open seam, you throw it to him. You scheme it up for David. David's going to have to live off screen life again, because I don't think they trust PJ to consistently throw over the middle to hit David. That's a silly plan. So David going to have to live that screen life, but he's really good at it. So give David some screens, give Coop some one-on-one looks, and I think that's going to be your passing offense. I would not expect a lot from Elijah Moore this week. I would not expect a lot from Cedric Tillman or whoever replaces Donovan Peoples-Jones this week. This is going to be a week where 2 guys are going to probably get this ball and maybe a running back in a check down, right? David, Coop, check it down, throw it out of bounds. That's going to be the plan. They're going to try to limit these turnovers, and this is how you limit the turnovers when your quarterback is PJ Walker. You just want to make sure that you don't allow his eyes to get bigger than his stomach. it can work out every once in a while, right? He makes that 3rd and 9 throw against Indy that helps you win that game. Hey, I'm glad his eyes were bigger than his stomach in that moment. But in this game versus the Cardinals, you don't need your eyes to be bigger than your stomach. You don't need that kind of play. You just need to run the ball and be competent on offense. And as long as you can do that, I think you have a great chance to win this game. I think Pierre Strong and Jerome Ford are going to have a great game. Pierre Strong, because he has a lot of those like cutback runs, and I think this is going to be a very young, aggressive Arizona Cardinals defense. So once they see somebody, the run attack kind of push one way, that will aggressively stunt towards it. And then I think Pierre Strong's really good at cutting those things back. And I think he's going to get a lot of those chunk runs. I think he'll probably be around 40, 50 yards here. And Jerome Ford is a similar guy to where, hey, if you aren't disciplined in your fits, Jerome Ford is somebody who has shown in the past that he could take advantage of that and get a big run out of nowhere. So Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong, I expect them to have their best days. Kareem Hunt, he'll probably be the short yardage guy, probably be the guy who gobbles up all the touchdowns. And you can, that's fine. That's absolutely fine with Kareem Hunt. So that's where I think they're going to be at with the run game. I think the offensive line is going to hold up despite the injuries that they have. The Arizona Cardinals have a up and down pass rush. They have some young edge rushers out there. I think that that's not going to be something that's going to pose much of a problem for Jet Wills or even James Hudson, who, you know, still on his rookie deal, but has played enough to not get outdone by a rookie, I would expect. Bounce back game for the defense is another prediction that I'll have in here. I don't think Arizona gets over 20 points, and I think in that way it will be a bounce back game. I think you're going to see a lot of turnovers for this Browns defense, a lot of sacks. I think some individual edge rusher or individual player in this game is going to have above 2 sacks. And I think at least there's going to be 1 interception in this game. Just looking how the Browns play defense and looking what's going to happen if Clayton Tune's out there, is the Browns play a lot of man and they get pressure. And if the plan is for Clayton Tune to get rid of the ball early to combat that, that's a recipe for disaster for Clayton, because he's not experienced enough to know how to get rid of that ball early, right? Like, that's an experience that you have to learn. It's like, what can you actually do when you have these fits? And you can easily get fooled if you aren't being careful there. And with the Browns playing as much man as they do, I mean, it's easy to throw into a trap. And I think Clayton's going to probably throw into a couple of traps here. I think the defense is going to give up a couple of big plays. This Cardinals offense has shown the ability to make those big plays, so I wouldn't expect that to stop. They are going to continue to do that because the tackling and just some of the communication in the back end of the secondary just is not great right now. And I think that's going to continue on. But I also think that this defense is going to do a much better job in the red zone than they've done in the past previous weeks. But those are actually, before I end this video, let me talk about that red zone defense. This red zone defense has been bad. And Jim Schwartz has talked about it. And he's harped on it for at least a month now about this red zone defense. And no more did you see this happen than in that Seattle game, right? 3 red zone drives that just had a regular possession in the red zone, 3 scores. That's not good. What happened at the end of that game? I know a lot of people glossed over it because we were too busy arguing about what the Browns should have done on 3rd and 3, but that entire defensive possession was unacceptable. Unacceptable and, quite frankly, embarrassing for a defense that claims to be the best in the NFL. Like, that is an embarrassing last drive by them. And I hope that embarrassment that they feel, or I hope they feel embarrassment, quite honestly, from that last drive. Because, again, you walk around here, you parade yourself as the best defense in the NFL. You're openly pondering what nickname you should call yourself. That was not a defensive possession to be proud of. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. And quite honestly, if you look at the end of the last 3 games for the Cleveland Browns, there have been some embarrassing defensive possessions, right? The 49ers game, hey, whatever, you forced a field goal attempt at the very least, right? So, but that wasn't great that you let them drive down the field on you to get a 40-yard field goal when you had multiple 3rd and longs in those drives and you just could not get off the field. Not great. And then you look at this Indianapolis Colts game last week, 2 weeks ago. Horrible defensive position. You just don't tackle Michael Pittman and he scores. Just embarrassing stuff there. But nobody remembers that because the offense scored on the other one. They bailed you out. The offense bailed you out in Indy, as well as the referees. And then we get to this drive in this game, and it's like you didn't exist. Had a 3rd and 10 early in that drive, a chance to get them off the field or at least to 4th down with the lead, and you give it up on an easy slant because you ain't paying attention in zone again. Some of this is on Jim Schwartz. Some of this is on the players on the field. But whatever's happening at the end of these games and in the red zone is embarrassing. It's this is not what you would expect from a defense that says they're the best in the NFL. It's embarrassing. So I think they're going to work on that heavily, given the embarrassment that last week's last drive was. I know that in the media, they escaped it. Maybe locally and nationally, this defense escaped criticism over that last drive because people were so focused on the play calling. But I know in that building, if I trust Jim Schwartz to be the coach that we think he is, he's not letting that slide. That was an embarrassment by that defense. And I think that they're going to be much more focused this week, specifically in those situations, because what happened against Indy, what happened against the 49ers, and what happened against the Seahawks cannot continue to happen. I don't care. Oh, they stopped them for 7 straight possessions between the second and third quarter. Who cares? When it mattered the most, they folded. Stop giving this defense excuses that you would never give the offense, despite the fact that that quarterback is PJ Walker on the offense. It's just shocking to me, the amount of excuses we can make for the defense, but not the offense, given that the defense is playing with the full hand. And we expect this defense to be the best in the NFL. So that's the note for the defense, man. Like, y'all been embarrassed for 3 weeks in a row. Well, 2 weeks in a row. Just embarrassed. Everybody who called this defense a fraud for 2 weeks has been feeling good. So I hope they understand that they legacy on the line this week, dog. Like, I hope they come out this week and play really hard, because you give up 30 points to the Cardinals, you a fraud, and nobody's going to come off that. So I think Jim Schwartz understands that. I think that some of the key players, the leaders on this defense, understand that this is a week where they got to get it together and they can't show no slack. And this is a week. This is a week, right? Get it back, because you play like you did the last 2 weeks against Baltimore. Baltimore gonna put 40 on your ass and make you even more of an embarrassment. So, tighten up. Like, tighten up. No joke there. And I know a lot of people aren't talking about it. I see all the headlines on the videos on YouTube and the articles, and nobody's talking about the defense. Nobody's talking about what they didn't do against Seattle. We're all focused on play calling, who's going to be healthy at quarterback, and they're fortunate for that. But in that building, I hope that this is a talked about thing. I hope we're not giving them this slack that we giving them in the media, because that was embarrassing. Flat out embarrassing. I don't want to see no defensive players brag about how good this defense is in no press conference this week. Nah, it ain't brag time. It's show me time, because I don't know, man. Hey, 5 weeks look good. Last 2 look like frauds. So we'll see what happens this week. But if you give up 30 to the Cardinals, they're going to look at you like frauds, and you're going to start looking like frauds. And all of this like stuff that we talking about with PJ Walker and the offense and everything else that's been running cover for this defense, that's going to go away. So tighten up this week, man. Tighten up. You need to bounce back defensively. Like, this ain't it would be nice to have a good game. Nah, you need this. You need the good game. Because right now you still running off reputation, but you give up 30 to the Cardinals, dog, ain't no reputation that you're going to be running off no more. But that's just my honest opinion about that whole thing. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.